So Jack and Jill. जिल को सेब खाना था, उसने जैक से कहा मुझे सेब खिला दो, सेब ला दो, मैं सेब खाना चाहती हूँ। और जैक ने सेब तोड़ा और सेब अपने आप खा लिया। जिल को कैसा लगा? He explained the stimulus response schematic uses of language by means of his famous story of Jack and Jill. कहानी है जैक और जिल की। Walking down the lane, Jill sees an apple. जिल ने एक सेब को देखा, she is hungry, वो भूखी है, and wants that apple, और उस सेब को खाना चाहती है, but she wants Jack to get her apple, और कहा जैक से कहा जाओ मुझे वो एप्पल दे दो, वो जैक से वो सेब चाहती है। She makes a noise with her larynx, tongue and lips. जैक हियर्स, जैक ने सुना उसकी प्रार्थना को। जैक हियर्स हर रिक्वेस्ट, क्लाइम्स ए ट्री, पेड़ पर चढ़ जाता है, टू गेट द एप्पल, से पाने के लिए, विथ विच जिल देन डिवोर्स, और फिर जिल उसको खा जाती है। हियर रियल और प्रैक्टिकल इवेंट्स प्रेसिडिंग द एक्ट ऑफ स्पीच इज द स्टिमुलस, एज इन दिस केस जिल्स फीलिंग ऑफ हंगर। इफ जिल हैड गॉट द एप्पल herself, then stimulus would have directly caused the response. Or her getting of the apple symbolized by as stimulus and the response. Instead, there is a substitute response, or in the form of vocal movement. That is, she asked Jack to do it. The substitute response of Jill leads to a substitute stimulus. अगर वो खुद जाती और खुद सेब तोड़ती तो क्या होता? Substitute stimulus, or as linguistic stimulus for Jack. He hears her request, and this causes the real or practical response. Stimulus response, R or S. Since Bloomfield's main concern was to develop linguistics into a science, the principles through which this could be done were the exclusion of psychology from linguistics and the use of scientific descriptive statements. He refused to accept any psychological interpretations of the linguistic fact and demanded a strictly mechanistic approach. This is evident from his treatment of residual forms, or so-called acceptions, in sound or change. He insisted upon the regularity of sound change and emphasized the scientific necessity of assuming that conditioned sound changes are purely phonetic and independent of non-phonetic factors such as meaning frequency. This became a starting point from which emphasizes upon so-called mechanism arose. According to Bloomfield, linguists should deal with observable events only which are located in the coordinates of time and space. His insistence on dealing with only those events that were accessible to an observer in both time and place marked a definite shift from mentalism to physicalism. He believed that the linguist should define descriptive terms rigidly in physical terms that could be derived from a set of collections of everyday items dealing with physical happenings. While he had earlier been a mentalist too, by 1933 Bloomfield became an apostle of anti-mentalism in linguistics. By placing a very heavy emphasis on objective observation, he had become an empiricist and had adopted a view of linguistic science that allowed only statement based on generalizations drawn from observable. About language are inductive generalizations. Features which we think ought to be universal may be absent from the very next language that becomes accessible. His empiricist orientation had also affected his approach to the study of meaning. He had rebelled against the linguistic theory of meaning, or as signified. To use Kristeva's term, while he admitted that the central functions of language was to convey meaning. Language was to convey meaning. He remarked that meaning was either a completely observable mentalistic construct or else consisted in so many and detailed events surrounding the speech act that an adequate observation of it was nearly as hopeless as that of mental reality. He affirmed that linguistic science would never be able to tackle it without taking into account the state of the speaker's body and the predispositions of the nervous sound system, which results from all of his experience, linguistic and other, up to this very moment, not to speak of hereditary and prenatal factors. Since this goal was unattainable, recourse to meaning he was to be avoided wherever possible. Hence, meaning had to be kept aside in task of establishing an adequate linguistic method. Inspired by ideas of anti-mechanism of Bloomfield, American linguistics was thus committed for a long time to the principle that language must be analyzed without regard to meaning. Language must be analyzed without regard to meaning. Efforts are made to evolve a methodology based on an exhaustive description of behavior of linguistic units without reference to meaning. This is where American linguistics resorted to occurrence, the possible distributions of sound segments, phonemes, and combinations of them, morphemes in a language. Thus, a new method of analysis was evolved, which was based on noting and describing all position which unit of a given language system should occupy, determining the distributions of linguistic units. On the basis of distribution of the units of the linguistic structure, three types of distributional relations have been identified: complementary distribution, contrastive distribution, and free variation. These distributional criteria have been developed into an strict axiomatic system and have been responsible for giving American structuralism the name distributionalism. Distributionalism of linguistic units was tested by the method of substitutions, replacing one unit under investigation by another non-unit in the same environment, and if the substitution can be performed without an essential change in the linguistic context, then both the units belong to the same class. For example, in the sentence John likes bananas, John can be substituted by Bill or Jill, the boy, or my sister, etc. My sister like bananas, Wim like bananas. They therefore belong to the same category as John. So we have already interacted about this, that it can be substituted by right, verb, or smart, or adjectives, or prepositions. Discovery procedure would mechanically produce a grammatical description based on a corpus, this corpus, and is the linguist's objectives material in which he or she finds out the distributions of the structural elements in order to arrive at the linguistic system. The grammar underlying the corpus, certain operations on a corpus of data were carried out without any reference to the external significance of linguistic forms. Linguistic theory thus became a strict analytical program which, applied to any corpus, will yield an appropriate grammar. The role of a linguistic theory of this type can be outlined in the following way. Linguistic theory, corpus as grammar. Thus, for the American linguist, linguistic analysis was considered a logical calculus leading to the discovery of the basic units of language and their formal arrangements. So, my dear students, Bloomfield's methodology, though the concept of levels was inherent in the traditional linguistics, it was given a new theoretical status and importance under the structural approach. By introducing such a distinction of structure level, the distributionalists were able to arrive at a higher degree of precision in the grammatical descriptions of language. For example, English adjectives category can be more precisely defined as a word which can be stand between the definite article the and a noun, and which never takes s in the plural. Since the goal of American linguistics was to discover a grammar by performing a set of operations on a corpus of data, this was to be achieved by following certain order of the levels of grammatical description, which is as follows: phonemics, morphemics, syntax, and discourse. The corpus consists of a speech of the first operation is phonemic. Bloomfieldians worked out the principles of analysis in the field of phonemics, which was based on the criteria of distribution and exemplified by substantial rest. Since language consists of a string of the phonemes which are grouped into minimal recurrence sequence or mobs, here there is a morphemic operation. Bloomfieldian most important contribution to the theory of syntax has been the analysis of immediate constituents, ICs. In order to discover the structures of the linguistic units, one divides the utterances into two parts: which are in turn divided in two parts until one arrives the minimal element that can no longer be divided into using the same criteria. In this way, one arrives at the immediate constituents, but one does not label them. Thus, the phrase old men and women can be divided as old men and women. IC analysis, meaning old man and the man, old man and woman. IC analysis, meaning women and old men and men and women. This analysis merely provides a purely formal description without taking the classical grammatical categories, noun, verb, etc., or even the philosophical categories that establish the classical analysis of the sentence, subjects, predicate, etc. The formal analysis proposed by American structuralism not only helped to reveal the principles by which the structure of a message may be linguistically organized, but also offer. And we have already read that Noam Chomsky denied all this IC analysis. He is against this. He found a lot of faults in this IC analysis. The possibility of studying languages that do not need logical categories to construct a signifying system. The Chinese language does not need to clarify tense in verb forms for determination of any article. That is what Noam Chomsky was saying. If you take the different countries and different countries' language, then this is not justifiable. IC analysis was attacked by Noam Chomsky. Since American linguists have had to describe numerous unknown languages, adoptions of neutral descriptions for linguistic analysis became necessary use of neutral methods relieved them from the forming presuppositions on the basis of Indo-European languages and subsequently freed them from Eurocentrism. Structuralism, of which American structuralism is the extreme formalizing tendency, thus introduced the epistemological break not in explanation but by offering, in accordance with the logical positivism, a flat description of language. Bloomfieldians' insistence on descriptions had in fact largely emanated from their faithful adherences to empirical conceptions according to which science has only to be described phenomena. The researcher's task would then simply be classification or taxonomy. A grammar is simply a classification of the segments, phoneme, morpheme, word groups that appear in the utterances of the corpus. The analytical approach to structure has rendered language static and object without history or speaking subject. So, my dear students, we have traced the development of structuralism in Europe and America. We have differentiated between the two versions of structuralism. We have also touched upon important concepts such as paradigmatic and syntagmatic relations, language and parole, and diachronic and synchronic studies. Diachronic and synchronic studies, and the diachronic and synchronic studies are very important. I have been telling you many times. We may ask you to differentiate between the diachronic and synchronic studies. What is diachronic? Pertaining to language change over time. Example, from Old English to Middle English to the Modern English is known as diachronic. Synchronic, pertaining to a language at a particular point of time. Example, studying English now would be a synchronic study of Modern English. So, what is language? In Saussure classification, language regarded as a system of shared by community of speakers is language, and parole, the particular utterances produced by particular speakers on particular occasions. I have already given in previous lectures about all this, so you must be very much prepared for these short questions. The short questions may come, but American may not come in your final examination. Now, but I have given you just that you must know about it. An approach to the study of language which consists, what is structuralism? An approach to the study of language which consists of a language to be primarily a system of relations, that is the place of every element in language, speech, sound, word, etc. is defined by the way it relates to other elements in language. Trace the development of structuralism in linguistics, or discuss the difference between the diachronic and synchronic linguistics. This is an important question. Diachronic and synchronic linguistics, or syntagmatic and paradigmatic relations, language and parole. What are the main points of difference between American and European structuralism? It's not as important. discuss the salient features of American structuralism, which we have discussed today. But this may not come in your examination. So we have interacted the American structuralist and Bloomfield. Some of the most important influences on linguistics in the earlier parts of the 20th century came from fields such as anthropology and psychology. Anthropological studies of tribes such as American Indians, Red Indians, as they were called, revealed the existence of language with elaborate sound system which could be studied and described just as Latin and other European languages had been described. This also focused attention on the structure of word formation and morphology in different languages. The American anthropologist Boas and Sapir, American anthropologist Boas Boas and Sapir Sapir gave a comprehensive descriptions of American Indian languages such as the language of the Algonquian family and thus laid down the basic methodology of modern descriptive linguistics. Their concern was also the significance of language in human thought and culture and the fundamental link between language and culture. Language and culture. However, it was felt that only that part of a language can be described which is observable and concrete, that its sounds can be observed as they are concrete. Physiological activities leading to a production of sound waves but meanings are abstract and cannot be observed. This belief was based on the behaviorist school of psychology. This belief was based on behaviorist schools of psychology, according to which only that mental process which is manifest in behavior can be scientifically observed and can become the basis of valid scientific conclusions. Since language is also a form of behavior, its external aspect. Remember, language is also a form of behavior. भाषा behavior क्या? Behavior, interest, attitude, and values. So भाषा क्या है? Language is also a form of behavior. Its external aspects, that is speech, is the focus of linguistic description. These influences were instrumental in growth of American structuralism in the first half of the 20th century. Foremost among the linguistics of this school is Leonard Bloomfield. In this seminal book, Language, 1933, he defines and delimits the areas of linguistic equity. He rejects the universalist ideas about language on the basis that each individual language has its classes and categories. Therefore, the only useful generalizations about language are inductive generalization. But Europeans, since they were the English people, they had been different kind of thing. Now, applying the behaviorist approach, Bloomfield explains language as a pattern of stimulus and response. He posits a situation where there is a stimulus from the external world which gives rise to an actual response in the form of an action. For instance, if a person is hungry and sees an apple, this apple is stimulus. If he talks about the apple and eats it, it is a response. But if instead of performing an action, he utters some sound such as I am hungry, bring me that apple, this is a speech response to the stimulus hunger. Bloomfield did not address the larger questions of language and culture as Sapir did, though he took many examples from the linguistics data obtained by the anthropological linguistics. Some limitations of Bloomfield's approach are obvious. It is purely mechanistic explanation and does not take into account the creativity and variability of language. Most important is the contribution of Saussure. Listen it carefully. I have already told you, but again I am just repeating it. Now the time is already over, but I will give you the 10 more minutes. The contribution of Saussure. At the same time that structuralist approaches were being taken up in the United States of America, there were similar developments in Europe. Chief among these was the work of Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure. Ferdinand de Saussure's course in General Linguistics 1916, we have discussed already in detail, ushered in a revolution in linguistics and in the understanding of the structure of language. My dear students, Ferdinand de Saussure made several important distinctions in the area of language study that set the foundation for the modern structural approach to language. This question is the most important. The contribution of Saucer. It may be asked in your final examination or in your internal examination too. The distinction between language and parole, synchronic and diachronic, form and substance. Saucer also introduced the concept of language as a system of signs. Language, this Saucer also introduced the concept of language as a system of signs. This concept became important not only for the understanding of language but also for understanding of all human and social structure as sign system. A, B, C, D. Even the sign system of traffic also. The sign consists of two elements, the signifier, example a word, and the signified, the concept or a meaning. A word or a meaning. The sign is composed of both elements in relationship with each other and is the central fact of language. The relationship between signifier and signified is arbitrary, which means that there is no essential or logical connection between the two. The relationship between signifier and signified, एक शब्द जो आपको दे दिया कि इसका मतलब क्या है, एप्पल. The relationship between signifier and signified is arbitrary, which means that there is no essential or logical connection between the two, as each language has a different and arbitrary way of organizing the word into concepts. Each language produces a different set of signified. Hindi will say shape. English will say apple. Apple. The signified relationship is established by social agreement. The signified relationship is established by social agreement. Therefore, language is essentially social and has the authority of social conventions. According to Saucer, 1916, book Course in General Linguistics. Saucer's book Course in General Linguistics 1916 में उन्होंने क्या कहा है? If we could embrace the sum of word images stored in the minds of all individuals, we could identify the social bond that constitutes language. Language is a storehouse. Language is a storehouse filled by the members of a given community through their active use of speaking, a grammatical system that has a potential existence in each brain, or more specifically in the brains of group of individuals. For language is not complete in any speaker. It exists perfectly only within a collectively. In separating language from speaking, we are separating what is social from what is individual, what is necessary from what is accidental. My dear student, this is the distinction between langue, the collective, social, langue. This is the distinction between langue, the collective, social, homogeneous, stable aspects of language, and parole, the individual, variable, heterogeneous aspects of language. We may ask you this question: what do you mean by language and what do you mean by parole? Saucer explained that entire linguistic system can be reduced to a set of syntagmatic and paradigmatic relations, and in this sense, language, the system of elements only defined by the relations to one another within the system. Example: WHILE, while P, A, and T are in syntagmatic relations, each phoneme is also in paradigmatic relations. P relates to B, A relates to E, T relates to D. The linguistic system consists of different levels of structure. You already discussed about that. The voiced and the unvoiced sound. The linguistic system consists of different levels of structure, and each level we can identify elements which contrast with another and combine with other elements to form higher level units. All this you have studied in 5th semester in the diagram. Pa, ba, ta, da, ka, ga. Can identify elements which contrast with one another and combine with other elements to form higher level units and the principal structure at each level are fundamentally the same. Language is a system in which elements are identified not by themselves but by their place within the system. Language is a system in which elements are identified not by themselves but by their place within the system. जैसे टिप ऑफ द टंग पे क्या पा बोलेंगे तो कहाँ होगा? इट्स ए बिब्लिकल साउंड. पा बा ट बोलेंगे तो जीभ कहाँ जाएगी? टीथ रिच को टच करेगी. ट ड और उसके पीछे जाएगी. सो दिस इज देयर प्लेस विद इन द सिस्टम. All these explanations made the structural basis of language clear and gave it definite direction. All these explanations made the structural basis of language clear and gave it definite directions to structural analysis of language as well as literature, folklore, etc. Though we now have sociolinguistic evidence that parallel to is socially restricted and language is subject to change. Ferdinand de Saussure's ideas based on this dichotomy have inspired much of the later thinking in linguistics. Saussure's contribution is that he explained. What is the contribution of Saussure? Saussure's contribution is that he explained the nature of language more clearly and systematically than any linguist before him had done. The Saussure had Ferdinand de Saussure's contribution is that Ferdinand de Saussure explained the nature of language. He explained the nature of language more clearly and systematically than any linguist before him had done. So my dear students, thank you very much to all of you. You must feed your students pro forma. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप सभी का. Thanks a lot for the day. Wish you all the best.